Well, hello everyone. It's your host Joey Mac, aka the Smoking Panda, and joining me today for episode 36 is Jesse Ring. Jesse is the owner and founder of Events by Jesse, a trend-sending, out-of-the-box event and wedding planning company. After 8 years, her business continues to thrive, attracting the funkiest, bold, and edgy clients. Jesse, thank you so much for having us.
Joey,
Oh,
thank you for having me. I'm so excited about this.
yeah, appreciate it. How's everything? Good?
Everything is good. We're all cool here. We're gearing up for wedding season up in the tri-state area, doing wedding season down in South Florida now. So we're having fun.
Love it, love it. The weather is has to be beautiful down there.
I can't complain.
Yeah, and Jesse, we want to have an awesome conversation because there's this awesome part that for us is towards the end of the reception, right? The whole day, and especially being a wedding plan, the whole day is pretty much the getting ready, the planning, the setup from the ceremony, but it's that special moment in the reception where people are just taking off their ties, the shoes are coming off, people are dancing, but we really want to chat about the reception and how people are finding out these new creative ways and how to make it entertaining.
Yeah, I totally agree. After the toasts are done and the special dances and the meal has been served, sometimes you have that last hour, hour and a half of the wedding that if you have a dancing crowd, you're fine. But not everyone's like that. So, ways to add entertainment and make it fun and make it a more memorable and personal experience. I mean, Mobile Cigar Lounge is perfect for that. And we love seeing other vendors like that too.
No, love it. Now, from your experience, and thank you for the shout out.
Of
What
course.
what have you seen as kind of like your top kind of like experience that you've seen towards the end of the wedding?
So we used to have some experiences that were more common during cocktail hour, but now we're seeing them towards the end of the wedding. So for example, some sort of live artist or caricaturist, because towards the end of the wedding, people are getting way funnier, way crazier, and it's giving you a more unique product, certainly. We see sleight of hand artists where once again, when you're like deep in that party and many, many drinks in, you're kind of more amazed by things. So we're getting a lot of these like wedding entertainers coming towards the end of the wedding, and it's ending it off with a real bang and a real fun moment.
It's funny. I saw a magician at the end of the wedding, and let me tell you, the reactions are so raw and pure.
Exactly.
And I think, they could do something of moving quarters from one hand to the other, but it's just so amazing. And I think it's kind of those raw moments that people actually like remember because of the laughter, the excitement, the surprise. Those are all raw emotions that people feel, especially when they're going through a wedding. Especially the artists as well. Have you worked with like different artists and magicians in your path that have really stood out to you?
I have. I actually worked with this one man who was a sleight of hand magician, but just better than anyone I've ever seen. I can't even remember the tricks, but like he would guess or not guess, I guess he knew people's names and their cell phones, like their contacts. It was
Oh.
it was wild. I've never seen anything like that before. So I will never ever forget that.
I usually see that, I run away and yell black magic. I'm just like, "Oh
have,
my goodness."
have you seen now the new trend of the robot dancers?
I have. Please tell us more
That's
about it.
huge. So right now, we're getting a lot of people that want these electronic robot dancers that want kind of feels like a parade almost of people on stilts and things like this and coming in that last half hour because I really believe in having the party end on a high note. I've worked with different bands and different DJs, and some of the bands and DJs, they love to like keep it pumping, and then at the end they like to wind it down. But to
Mm.
me, that's not a memorable experience. I want my guests, after that last song is over, that last experience is over, wishing that there was more, being
Love
so upset that it's over because
love it.
that's going to be memorable for them.
You know what? I've seen them, they had those, I don't know, there's those cloud cannons or whatever, and they're just
Yes,
shooting it
yes.
out to the crowd.
The
Yeah, the
dry ice
dry
cannon.
ice. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. And then the DJ's pumping. I mean, right? It depends on what kind of experience that, the wedding couple has. If you're going more, as you said, the traditional route with people running out, or you want to just end the night with a bang and they're just playing some hot beats and they're just just shooting that cannon out. A lot of the guests
Totally.
really remember that.
Yeah, definitely. And it's really different. So in the past, let's say 10 years, we've had this trend of end of wedding experiences that took the guests outside to
Mm,
have to set up a photo, whether it was sparklers or confetti or lanterns. And while yes, you get a really beautiful photo moment from that, if you think about the actual energy of your party,
mm,
it's breaking it up. It's
mm,
definitely bringing things down in a way that does not
mhm.
feel organic. So if my couples want that, of course we're gonna give it to them. That's what we do. But I love making these suggestions that feel more energetic and more exciting for the guest experience as well, and not just the photo op.
Yeah, and what I love about that too, it gives you a chance for your photographers to really show their work, especially when they're doing, I've seen with the sparklers and they draw letters, or when they take a photo op, especially when they're at a location where there's a beautiful background and the people around it. I think those memories are just forever kept, especially if they're looking to do it in a digital book or a physical book of just those awesome pictures. I think that's a great way for people to remember your wedding.
Totally.
Now let me ask, because I am a big foodie and I've seen some awesome stuff trending. Have you seen anything trending in terms of like anything that had to go food wise?
Well, food in general will never go out of style, right? So let's
Yeah.
remember that. It's always a great suggestion for us to make. Some of my favorite food trends I've seen was I had a couple that loved meatball subs, and they, instead of a favor, everyone got a meatball sub to go. Why
Let's
not?
go.
Yeah, it
Let's
was all wrapped
go.
up so people could easily take it in the car with them or back on the train, but they got a meatball subs to go.
Oh
Perfect end
my
of night.
God, so good, so good. And I think you and I have met some wonderful wedding professionals that actually do these types of experiences. Because I've seen it where some venues do it themselves as well. Where there's a venue here in New Jersey where at the end they had all right, they had Taylor ham, egg and cheese. I know it might be pork roll for some people, but for us,
Yes,
Taylor
yes.
ham, yeah, Taylor ham, egg and cheese, or pork roll, egg and cheese, and they have them with hash browns. So when people are going out,
Oh
they
yeah.
just grab them, and I think those are great things. Have you seen anything with like donut walls and stuff? That's
Oh
pretty cool.
yeah, we've seen gorgeous donut walls, and also for the things that don't have holes, tiered displays that are just so stunning and beautiful. Whether it's cupcakes or candy apples or cinnamon buns, I've seen a whole variety of things. But I will tell you that I love sweets, but at that
Mm,
time of night, I want something savory. And there's
yes.
trucks now that are doing half candy and ice cream, half fried food. Get your
Mm.
chicken fingers, get your soft serve, and be on your way and be super happy
Now I love it since you were talking about the trucks. You've seen food trucks actually come to venues and actually,
all the time.
oh, I love it. So I know you talked about, is there a favorite, type of truck that you would see at the end?
Yeah, Shake Shack, the Shake
Shake
Shack
Shack.
truck.
I love it.
That's that's the number one. That's the gold standard, isn't it?
Ah, love it, love it. Yeah, you know what? I've seen some pretzel towers where they have
Yep.
pretzels and they have like the sweet, like the chocolate, and then you could add like, sprinkles and stuff, and then there's a savory where you could actually add like chocolate and bacon on your
Oh wow.
pretzels. Yeah,
That's awesome.
pretty
And like different
pretty wild.
dips, I'm sure. That sounds good.
Yeah, I think a lot, Jesse, too, is when you and I talk to couples, right? you know, for the most part, this is their first wedding, right? They're
Right.
just looking for something to make it different, something unique. And we've already talked about, entertainment. Yes, we talked about some cigars, but also there's food component to it. There's those artists, magicians, stilts. I think couples now, today, have so many wonderful options to kind of make it unique and different that I think it's a great time just to get married and offer these to clients. What do you think?
I totally agree with you. And we're seeing another trend. Are we allowed to talk about things to smoke besides cigars on this podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't care.
Okay. Well, let me tell you, this is now a trend. Have you heard of the term bud tender?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have.
So we are seeing that now. People were doing signature cocktails for the last 15 years, and now we're getting into something else that like to enjoy, right? Marijuana is an indulgence. It is something like a drink. It's something like something, really nice. There's different varieties, there's different ways to do it, just like a signature cocktail with different flavors. So we're seeing edible bars, we're
Mm,
seeing weed bars,
mm.
and I got a client that just bought 100 pre-rolled joints for his party favor.
Let's go. Oh, that wedding's either yeah, that's gonna be
It was
awesome.
great. It was a
Yeah.
great wedding. It was great.
I just can imagine because you know what, especially when you're planning these weddings, it's something that I want to talk about too. It's all about that personalization, right? Because when you're the couple and you're inviting your friends and family, you're really personalizing that wedding because that's how they're going to know you about, right? If you're a fun couple that just loves to party, I'm sure you're gonna have the people on the stilts, you're gonna have some great entertainment. But also that personalization in weddings also that even though you can't maybe have one or two of these things, you could also personalize your wedding by having whether it's what do you think is usually like fun stuff? Like I've seen candles, I've seen donuts where they have them in little things. Have you seen anything in particular nowadays?
Yes, and I think also if we talk about themed weddings, which do
Mm,
happen,
mm.
I had a Harry Potter wedding last year where they had these wands. That was the party favor, was the wands, and they also did the photo op instead of the sparklers. We used the wands for a photo op. So we
That
definitely have
is
something like that.
so awesome.
Yeah, I
So
mean, it's
awesome.
so personal to the couple. Everyone who knows them knows that they love Harry Potter. And we got to do a lot of fun theme stuff, not just at the end of the wedding for this one, but all throughout. It was super fun.
What other so a wedding that we've done that is so fun. Like I would if I was at that wedding, I would have been like having such a great time, right?
Yeah.
Were people in costumes or
People were not in costumes, with some dressed in theme, but also this crowd was like hardcore partiers.
oh, nice.
It was awesome. This was like a Bronx crowd that loved Harry Potter, and it was hilarious and amazing.
Shout out to Harry Potter. Hopefully we get
Shout out to the
sponsored.
Bronx.
Yeah, shout out to the
Where I'm
Bronx
from.
for throwing it down. I've been to a Halloween themed wedding where they're just like, hey, no tuxes, no dresses. Just come in as a Halloween costume. And I thought that was so cool. I think I could dig up some pictures, but the picture of the crowd, it was just they were just celebrating, their biggest time on Halloween. What kind of other themes have you saw, Jesse, that kind of like stick out to you?
So other themes are kind of like a Met Gala dress to impress, but in a really extreme way.
Mm,
Very, very big fan of that. Just to see the wedding, they want it to be personal to them, but they also want their guests to feel that they're showing their personal and authentic selves.
mm.
So kind of, dress to impress for some people is a simple suit and a little black dress, but dress to impress for those crowds are a hell of a lot more elaborate than that and super, super fun to look at. It adds to the decor. It adds to your photos. Things
Abs-
feel more alive and exciting and decorated when you have your guests like that. We've had Christmas themed weddings. We have another one coming up this year. People love Christmas. They love
Yeah,
it.
I love Christmas. I love Christmas.
Yeah,
So,
I'm Jewish and I love Christmas too.
oh, I love it. Yeah. Now, especially when you see these themes, right? I've saw a theme that these weddings where they have so one is you can have your guests dress up as these costumes, right? They don't have to be mandatory, but it also adds to the environment. And not only do we do weddings, Jesse, we also do events. I've seen some Great Gatsby events where they dress up as the 1920s, and women and men just dress up to the nine, and it just looks so great on video and photos. And as we always talk about, Jesse, it just adds to the experience, and people remember those things, right?
So actually, for my 30th birthday, it was called Jestoberfest because
Mm.
I love Germany and Bavaria. And all of my friends and family dressed up in dirndls and lederhosen or just shorts and suspenders and high socks. And, it all added to it. And it was amazing.
Oh, I love, and people love that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I think Jesse, you and I in this space, we are just experienced creators, right? And when
Yeah.
clients come up to us and they're like, "Hey, this is my wedding, this is my birthday," I think it's up to us to make, A is to figure out who they are and what they're looking for, and B to guide them and making sure that we're putting them to the right direction to, because you and I have worked with probably hundreds of wedding professionals, and they are the best out there from, as we talked about, food, talked about artists, people who do
Photography,
photography, videography.
entertainment. Yeah.
Yeah. Now let me ask you, do you think videography and photography are pretty important for your wedding?
I
For
think
your
photography, in all honesty, is maybe number one, only because it's the only physical memory of the day.
I agree. I
Yeah.
agree.
I think that, we obviously venue, we want the decor, we want this and that, but you want to look decades later at your photos and see people that, sadly might not be around
Mm,
anymore,
mm.
see the love that you had between you two, see the joy on everyone's faces, right? People are dancing, people are happy, people are there for you to experience you. And it's a really important thing to have in the future when you're reminiscing and
Yep.
remembering. Videography, that's an interesting one. So for most of my couples, it tends to be the vendor that they say to me, well, let's see how much money is left at the end and see if we want to add videography. I understand that, definitely. But right now we're in a moment where videography and videographers are really shining because they're creating these not just, regular videos. They're creating feature length films. A lot of my videographers give a 5-minute teaser and an hour to an hour and a half film of your wedding
Mm.
with, the speaking. They have special microphones so that everyone can be heard when they need to be, and they edit that in. And it's definitely a new and innovative way of doing videography. Whereas in the past, everyone would get, all the raw footage that was hours and hours long, and that was it. But now we're having actual editing go into it and really creating films out of people's weddings.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you, Jesse. And even for me, right? I look at social media. I've had Facebook since it's open, and sometimes you get those memories, crappy pictures, but you look at them and you're like, man, I remember that moment, right? But
Yeah.
but now you're getting these awesome creative photographers and videographers that are not just doing those 90 2000s, like kind of like that style where it's just kind of like linear. Like they're doing like intros, they're doing shots, or using fades, or using beautiful music to capture those moments. And you're exactly right. You look even a year, 2 years, 5, 10, 20 years from now, it's like something that you'll always remember. And especially with social media nowadays, I mean, the ability to be able to share it, and I love where it gives you kind of like, hey, on this day or that this moment, you could always look back and be like, oh man, there's my best friend acting a fool, but you'll remember that
Yeah.
day and you'll just laugh and smile. I think that's great. But I also agree with you, Jesse, that I always tell our couples too, especially when it comes to us as doing cigars, have your photographer and videographer come outside and grab some pictures. We've done some amazing pictures of people smoking cigars because they want to celebrate. And I think there's a lot of wedding professionals out there that do such an amazing job that they want to highlight your guests, you and your guests. I think that's what's super important. So Jesse, I was talking about personalization, right? Like, so that category is wedding favors, right? What have you seen or trending that's kind of like out there? I know you talked about the wands for Harry Potter. I think that's super awesome. What have you seen out there that's kind of like stood out to you?
So if my couples ask me what they should do for favors, I always tell them it should be something consumable.
Hmm.
And it's not that, a coaster isn't lovely, but it's probably gonna end up in the trash. So let's be real with everyone. And there
How
are
about
ways to
how about
personalize it.
magnets? Magnets,
Well, it depends on what the magnet is of, I guess.
I guess. Yeah.
um, but that's a really good point, actually. So we can have experience favors, like a photo booth that prints magnets.
Mm.
And so you're going to get a photo of you yourself as the guest and not just the couple. It'll have the couple's name and their date on it. So it's memorable and from that wedding. But that is something that can be nice. It's an experience that leads to your favor. Other favors that I've seen that I love is anything consumable that you make personal. So, for example, I'm
Mm.
doing a bat mitzvah in April, and the bat mitzvah girl loves hot sauce. So, yeah, it's small bottles of Frank's Red Hot. But we're making specialty labels to go around them, so everyone brings home a bottle of Sequoia's hot sauce.
Love it. Love it.
Um, Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. I have also seen some personalization where they actually make something at the end. Have you seen, like,
Yes.
I've seen candles, I've seen leaving messages? What have you seen that kind of like stood out
Oh,
to you?
the leaving messages. Well, that's a whole let's talk about that in a minute. That's a whole other thing.
Okay, I got you.
But yes, I've seen flower arrangements that sometimes you make at the beginning or the end, so people, can have their own flowers for the wedding. I've seen the candles as well. I've seen DIY food items. So, let's say you got an amazing cookie from Schmackery's for everyone, and they got to decorate their own cookie and, put
Mm,
all the stuff on it, or their own cupcake or their own donut, things like that. And it's not part of the dessert, but it is part of the actual exit experience.
mm. I love how you said that because that's kind of like you want that experience from the beginning to the end, right? You just don't want people to just go home and just be like, all right, that was cool. Like there's something at that exit whether it's, you're going out and you're getting some sort of food or some kind of favor where you're able to personalize it. I've seen one where they did, I think we were just talking about it, where they actually kind of make their own candle. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. Yeah, and
Yeah, it's so nice to have that to bring home with you. And it's even though it's not edible, it's still a consumable product, so people will use it.
oh yeah, oh yeah, especially a candle like a donut. I did this Italian wedding, and they had these little bottles of limoncello
Nice.
coming out, and they were just like giving it away, and I was like, oh, I'll
Amazing.
take one. Yeah.
Yeah, you will, of course. There's a great company that does personalized froze popsicles
Mm,
that are a really cute to go treat. There is a company called Bananas that does, banana pudding with personalization on the cart and the cup. So there's so many different cool, fun options out there. And the actual product itself can be reflective of who you are and just add to the personalization of the whole experience. We want our guests for any of our weddings to walk in, look at it, and say, wow, this is Joe and Julia's wedding. And
mm,
we want them to feel the same way when they leave.
mm. Love it, love it. Those things, even those small little things, really mean a lot to people, right? I've done another Italian one where they had boxes of pizza,
Nice.
just
Yes, I've done that too,
come out.
actually.
You,
Yeah.
you know what? And you're exactly right. Especially like this is them. This is who they are, and I think that's super important when planning a wedding, whether it's your theme, and then kind of like that beginning to end, you want that guest experience to be wonderful, right? Now, is there any weddings that kind of stood out to you that was just like, wow, this is freaking totally different out of the box idea?
Yeah, so I did a wedding last year where there was so many elements of this wedding, to be honest, that stood out to me as something personal and interesting, but I'll share a few because this couple was really cool. First of all, they didn't want to do a bouquet toss. They felt like people get nervous when they come up
Hmm.
there and they're, pointed out for being single, but they wanted to toss something. So they threw a stuffed cat and the person who caught it had to adopt a pet. So they still got
What?
to have their tradition of throwing something. The bride got to throw something at the wedding, but they got to make it their own and make it cute for people and less intimidating for their guests.
Wow. I love that. I love
The
that.
bride was also Chilean, and they had these amazing Chilean folk dancers that we flew in from Canada, actually. But they did this traditional folk dancing. This couple also, their send off, this venue was so beautiful. Shout out to Chatfield Hollow Inn in Connecticut. And there's a beautiful pond, and the couple got into a boat at 10 p.m. at night and rowed around the pond while everyone watched them and cheered for them for their send off.
Oh my goodness. I love
Yeah,
that. I love that. And those are things that's them, and I think
totally
when people
them.
like look at their wedding or at the end of the night when they're laying in bed, they're just like, wow, that was, Joe and Jillian's wedding. That
Exactly.
was their wedding. And I've been to a wedding too where they had it was Italian and Greek, and they had dancers on both sides come in and do these traditional dances. So it was like you were at a show, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And I thought that was pretty cool as well. Anything else that sticks out to you?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we've done just so much, so many wonderful things. Um, Give me a second to let this part
Yeah,
out, please.
yeah, no
Give me a
worries.
second.
I'll fill in. I've
Yeah,
been to one where listen, I know there's DJs, there's live bands, but I've seen some violinists and like high energy saxophonists or musicians that come out and they just play like hard. They just go hard on the dance floor. And I think people love that stuff. And I've seen like drummers too that go with the DJ and they just bring this type of vibe that just keeps the audience, not the audience, your guests, like really into it. And even though you might not be dancing per se at that moment, you're still vibing out to the environment. And I think that's an A plus, especially when you're doing those things as well.
It all spreads different kinds of energy. I've done the Chinese lion dancers at a few weddings, that had both of them were Chinese or one of them was Chinese. I actually had a couple where it was definitely the bride. She was one of my favorite brides of all time, but she and her dad for their special dance, they did whip and nae nae. And
Oh
so everyone loved that moment. You think that they're gonna do this like romantic slow dance, and then she and dad are doing the entire thing. And she was a dentist, and at the end, she choreographed a dance for she and her dental assistants, and sat her groom down on the chair, and they all did this really cute dance for him.
no way.
Yeah.
And you know what? It just goes, but one is especially when you want to implement your culture into the wedding. I think that's a beautiful thing nowadays,
Oh,
right?
totally.
Especially being Americans, right? I think it's just a great way to embrace your culture, right? And we were just talking about we talking about traditional dancers having the line dancers for a Chinese wedding. I think people should just embrace their culture and just see what's out there, right? Like like if people came up to you, Jesse, people like yourself, you have access to these things and you can find these things out. And the great thing is you are there to assist the couple in making sure, like, hey, if I had to ask you, Jesse, hey, Jesse, can you find me some Chinese dancers? Absolutely. You go do your research, you go contact them, you go find out the pricing and see if it's a good fit. But I think couples nowadays, I think it's a wonderful thing to have kind of like that cultural aspect of making it different and embracing it. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree. And I actually had one couple where they got a little extra with their cultural stuff, and I super into it. So the bride was Chinese, and we did a tea ceremony and some other things, and the groom was South Asian. So they also did South Asian garb for part of their reception. And it was
Mhm.
so beautiful. But they were just the coolest, most fun couple. And they said, well, we're in the South Asian traditional costumes. We want to lip sync Whole New World on the dance floor in front of everyone. The groom's dad made him this like magic carpet on wheels. So
No.
it was amazing. Everyone was obsessed.
Oh,
It was a
I
perfect moment.
love it.
It was
Great
a
movie,
perfect
by the
moment.
way. Aladdin, perfect, awesome movie.
Love
But
it, Aladdin.
you know what? The colors,
Yeah.
especially, and you usually see it with like kind of like the Southeast Asian weddings where you have those kind of like those beautiful colors and wardrobes.
Yes.
I think that's beautiful.
Me
Like embrace
too.
it, Um, and that's something that we've talked about. I think nowadays, Jesse, that people are, yes, can you have a traditional wedding? We're not saying that, hey,
Of
don't have a
course.
traditional wedding. Like it is totally up to you, but you're seeing more and more couples getting super creative with their whole wedding day experience. And I think that's a
I
wonderful
tell
thing.
I tell my couples all the time, listen, you can tell me that you want to have a quote unquote different wedding from today to tomorrow. At the end of the day, most weddings have similar elements.
Right.
The only way to make this feel more like you and more interesting is incorporating these personal touches. And they don't all have to cost money, which is something really important to note too, like doing a whole new world.
Hmm.
Or they cost a little bit of money, like personalized cocktail napkins. Some people are intimidated by the idea of something outlandish and non traditional. You can still be traditional and incorporate personal touches into the ceremony. You can have fun facts, on everyone's menu. They can also have a fun fact about the couple on it. Things
Mm,
like that, you know, it creates more of a warm experience. It creates more of an experience where everyone feels like they know you. Sometimes we have people at weddings that we don't know that well. The couple doesn't always know everyone well, or one side
correct.
does not always know the other one. So it's also a great opportunity to create more of an intimacy between all of the families and friends and the sides joining.
Yeah, so everyone's just celebrating that beautiful day together. And I think that's awesome. And you're exactly right. Some of these don't take a lot of money, and I think that's an important thing, Jesse, where couples just need to reach out and find people like yourself, or reach out to companies like ours, and just be like, "Hey, I just want to get information because this is something that I'm considering." And I think nowadays, Jesse, because weddings are getting bigger and people are, it's so crazy. Like 2 years ago, we were in COVID, right? The wedding season is now getting back up to its normalcy. Uh, I do you think people should be reaching out to these vendors because they're getting booked up pretty quickly, correct?
They are getting booked up quickly. Yes, listen, we live in a world where in the Northeast and in South Florida, where I am, we have amazing vendors and there's a lot of vendors. I don't worry for any of my clients, but you may not get your first choice. So it definitely is a time where if you want something, especially something specialty, like any of these vendors, like I had a couple that rented pinball machines for their weddings last year, things that are finite, things that once they're rented out, you can't use them on the same day. So I would recommend definitely reach out sooner than later, do your research sooner than later, and
Mhm.
ask your other, you could obviously ask a wedding planner whether you have one or not, but ask your other vendors. Your caterer might know someone that they love. Your venue might know someone they love. Your photographer might. So I do
Mhm.
encourage that.
I love how you said that because being a wedding professional, we've worked with some incredible people, and some people might come up to us, hey, who's an event planner that you know? Hey, who's a caterer that you've worked with? Hey, who's a photographer? Hey, who's a cigars that you worked with?
That's right.
And the biggest thing you could get is a huge compliment and an awesome referral from someone that you've worked with, and be like, hey, listen, when you call these people, they are fantastic, they are awesome, they are great to work with. I think that's a huge thing. Now, Jesse, man, we could have this conversation all the time, and I appreciate you being on. But I would like to ask you if you had to give your couple one piece of advice, right? They're about to get, they're in their planning stages, they're looking for venues, they're looking for photographer. What's your kind of like key advice that would really help a couple out when they're planning out for their wedding?
So besides make it personal, which is always my number one piece of advice, but we've talked about that. I would
Hmm.
say do what feels right for you.
Mm,
This wedding is about the two of you.
mm,
Now, I get couples that get nervous that they're not going to choose food everyone wants, or they have to choose certain songs for the dance floor because they want this person to want to get up and that person. At the end of the day, if you do what you want and you are beaming and you are happy and your energy is there, people are going to follow suit. Don't worry.
love
Everyone's
it.
there to love on you.
Love
Remember
it.
that. And
Love
if you make those decisions, keeping you as a couple in mind, you're going to have a great experience.
Jesse, thank you so much for being on. I just want to say thank you again. Your advice, your expertise, and being 8 years in the business of just being able to see all these different types of experience. Thank you so much for coming on and spending time with us today. And then please let our listeners know where they can find you if they'd like to get you in touch with social media. This is your time just to just spill it out and where they can find you.
Thank you. Please find me and my team. I have an awesome team. Where our social media, our Instagram is at Events by Jesse, EVENTSBYJESSE. And you can also find me if you want to contact me directly. Feel free to email me, Jesse@eventsbyjesse.com. And I hope to hear from you.
Jesse, thank you again. Hey, Jesse and her team are fantastic. We've worked some incredible events together. She is an amazing woman that's doing some incredible things in the wedding industry. Jesse, I'm looking forward to doing awesome experiences together as we move forward through 2023. Thank you again for being on the Light 'em Up experience. So we'll chat soon. Thank you again.
Thanks, Joey. Sounds good. Bye.
Bye.